So I owe you guys a final review video of the Gen 3 KLR. I've had the bike for, I don't know, quite a while. I have to look back at my first video that I posted, but I got it when there's still snow on the ground. So I basically had it through late winter, spring, summer, and now we're getting into fall. So right now I'm sitting, I think about 2,400 miles on the bike total. And I'll just go through the parts that I put on it, my overall impressions of the bike. And one caveat is, since I started modifying it right away, I don't really have a lot of good input of what the bike's like bone stock. So just one thing to keep in mind. So we'll start at the front. I put on the Eagle Mike's fork brace basically right away, so I can't really compare what the bike was like before that. It holds up well off-road. The bike is rock steady on the highway. Yesterday I was cruising probably 75, 80 miles an hour, and it was rock solid the whole time. So it works pretty well. I don't know if you can see that on camera. I already got a slight ding. Probably had to rock a little too hard on it. I am also still running the stock tires, which makes a lot of people really mad, I found. I basically don't want to waste money, so I'm just wearing these things out, and then I'll try new ones. I get it. I can do better on the bike with different tires, but the type of riding I do, I can't really justify getting new tires quite yet, but we're getting close. I have not changed the headlight at all. I have not put any other lighting on the bike. The stock headlight works pretty well. I don't ride at night that much. I'd considered getting the Kawasaki lights that mount like right here. But then after looking at them closer, I decided against it. I may in the future go with those lights that I can mount basically right here, and then they'll actually turn with the bike itself. But I'm not really set on that yet. I did change the stock windshield out. The stock windshield actually works pretty well. This windshield is the medium size, and it sits at a pretty good angle. I would say it definitely helps better than the stock windshield, but it doesn't completely eliminate the wind by any means. You can see I put my clip on here for my ID at work when I go through the gate. I did put on these aftermarket mirrors. They're pretty adjustable. I found out real quick, one of the reasons that the mirrors that come stock in the KLR look so goofy is because there's basically clearance issues. So these are adjusted, and you can see I'm still getting a little bit of contact, not much. But if you're not careful and you try to whip the bike around real quick, you'll actually snap the windshield off. So just one thing to keep in mind. These, they look better, I guess, but they're not really that much more effective. I did get these little extender mounts here as well. And one thing about all the parts, I'm not going to go through and put all the links again. If you guys want to go see the links to all these parts, you just have to go look at the description on a few of my first videos. Because one thing I have noticed is that most people don't really watch all my videos, so I get a lot of the same questions over and over. So if you're interested in these parts, just go back and look. I posted it all, and they're still there. I got the tusk handguards, or bark busters, whatever you want to call them. I gave my thoughts on those before. Not a huge fan of bark busters in general, but these work okay. The stock Kawasaki handguards actually do really well with wind protection. These are awful at wind protection. That's not really what they're for. But your hands get a lot colder with these versus the stock ones. So you can notice I didn't put any kind of protection for my shrouds or anything on here. I know that really makes a lot of people mad, because I had several comments where people were almost like mad because I didn't buy them. Well, I've dropped my bike once, and it's on that Virginia City video that I posted, and I can't really justify putting that much more weight on the bike, as well as the suspension, which I'll kind of come around to, does interfere with it as well. So I'm not really sure if I'm able to make it work or not. You can see the fork clickers there. That's from the Cogent suspension. I'll talk about that more when I get around to the rear shock. But I did do full suspension upgrade, and that was pretty awesome, but kind of spendy. So one of the big upgrades I did, at least in my opinion, was the foot pegs. These are wider, much stronger than the ones that come stock. The stock ones, you basically can't even stand up on the bike. It's pretty bad. The vibration, I put these anti-vibration, or I basically took the anti-vibration stuff out of here, and I put in these mounts to make these so they don't move as much. And the vibration's really not bad. They put a lot of stuff in the KLR to try to minimize the vibration, and it's pretty ineffective, I thought. I did put a new shift lever on. This is just a standard Tusk one. Looks like I need to tighten it again. It does loosen up every once in a while. I did put this aftermarket skid plate on, and it does okay. The problem, you know, with metal is when you hit those little rocks and stuff, it's a pretty loud bang. You can see I put the battery tender on here, or maintainer. That's basically the ones you get at Walmart. I did put the center stand on. That was from Happy Trails. It works well. It's convenient to change your tire, but I will say that it really causes a lot of interference if you're getting in really rocky stuff or really tight terrain. And also, when I ordered it, I think it took nearly 3 months to get. So that's one thing about the website on Happy Trails that I've noticed. It's like they promise these parts that they have in stock, but they haven't made them yet. And with all the supply issues, it's a significant delay. It's very high quality parts, I'll say, but expect that it takes a while to get them. So I have this on here. I'll take it off. The only reason I have it on right now is because I rode about 300 miles yesterday. It interferes with me while I stand up. That's why I don't really like it that much. I did not put grip heaters on. I may in the future, but I really like these grips that I got. They feel really good. And I don't really ride that often where my hands get that cold. This has actually been a lifesaver. I thought it was kind of gee whiz when I first got it, but it basically has the tire pressure sensors, and you can see the sensors. You have a front and back that look like that. You know, basically, if you watch one of my older videos, I basically nearly went down at about 80 miles an hour when I ran over a screw and lost tire pressure immediately. And with how heavy this bike is, and I'm sitting here sideways on the highway, so that basically allowed me to look down and know something was wrong, or kind of confirming something was wrong, and it really helped me kind of, you know, deal with the situation. So I thought that was a gee whiz purchase, but it ended up being a really important thing. So I highly recommend it. The bars, I get higher bars, of course, and the bar risers, because I'm a tall guy anyway. I like my bars kind of twisted up. I did put on a temperature gauge. I would say generally the bike likes to run about 170-ish when it's cool outside, up closer to 180 when it's warmer, and that's at highway speeds. The tack works great, and kind of the way I ride the bike at highway speeds, I kind of set the power setting basically. So like a lot of my riding yesterday, I just kind of set about 5,100 RPM and let the bike kind of ride at the speed it wanted to. That was probably 72-ish miles an hour. So let's see, I think that's the GPS here. I did get the shock mount. You can see the GPS isn't hooked up right now. It's just a cheapo $20 one I got from online. I'm gonna change it down the road. Basically it has an error that pops up all the time that gets really annoying, so I just turn it off. The tank pads, it comes with, or I bought a top tank pad too that I took off here. It basically doesn't adhere to the tank very well. These ones, I had to cut them a little bit, but they look really good. They work well, and I thought it was a pretty good purchase. The kickstand, It holds up real well. I didn't get like the like bigger pad that you can put on there. Maybe in the future, but I haven't really found a need to yet. I'm also got a lot of flack about these. Everybody's like, why are you putting hard panniers on? I get it. They're dangerous if you crash with them, but it makes it nice to lock your stuff up. And the way that I ride my bike, I like to basically jump on it, go to the store, go wherever, and not worry about people stealing stuff off the bike. So that's why I have it. The seat, it's fairly comfortable. I can probably maintain about 8 hours a day of riding the bike for maybe a few days, you know, but I can't really justify buying a more expensive seat right now, just because I bought that recently and some other stuff. So, see, the Pelican case, I really like the fact that I can just open the Pelican case, I can lock it. At the time that I did this, they didn't really have a mount, so I just kind of took some washers and kind of hard mounted it onto the bike. So maybe in the future I'll get something I can detach that with, but right now it seems to be holding up pretty well. The tusk, I don't know, what do you call these? The pannier racks. You can see I can detach the panniers pretty easy. I was going to put a tube in here that I can carry some more stuff. I don't really find a good way to mount it quite yet, but I can fit one in here if I wanted to. You can see my rear tire. It's getting close. I'll change them out and then make some people happy. The exhaust, got the Lex exhaust. I've had people ask me about power. Dude, if you're trying to get power out of KLR, then you're with the wrong bike, man. It changes the sound a little bit. I didn't have a problem with the sound on stock. The main reason I have it is because I pulled about 10 pounds of weight off the bike that way. So the stock one is pretty darn heavy. So that's why I have it. Let's see, getting into this side of the bike, you can see my Cogent suspension. You have the preload adjuster here, so I can adjust it based on how much weight I'm carrying. I will say the Cogent suspension, it works awesome. Really worth the money, especially if you're putting extra weight on your bike. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. We're going to go for a ride here in a minute. The oil, the bike does not burn oil. That's one thing. I've been riding it for quite some time, and it doesn't burn oil. One thing to note, basically when you change out the filter here, it happened to me one time. I changed oil again. It didn't happen that time, where it starts leaking from there for, I don't know, maybe a day after that it stopped. And I've saw other people have the same issue. So I will say the first time I didn't change out the O-ring. The next time I did. But it's susceptible to leaking, but it will kind of self-seal. So one thing to keep in mind, I did put on the thermobob early on. I don't know if that's contributing to the oil not burning in this bike, but you know, the temperature stays pretty stable, so it tends to work pretty well. But it's nice because I can adjust this on the fly. I don't have to be banging rings around, and I can also adjust the front suspension as well pretty easily. So yeah, that's basically the bike. And let's go for a ride and talk about some more things about it. Alright, so now we'll take the bike for a little ride and then talk about some of the things I like and don't like about the bike. Overall, I love this bike. It does really good on-road and off-road. It's not perfect by any means, but it does really well. This guy right here has a Gen 3 KLR also. I see it every time I go by. So I'll show you why I have a KLR. Because I can do this kind of stuff that I can't do on a street bike. And yet it's comfortable enough I can go bring it on the highway. So stock, the bike coming out of the factory, I think it does awesome for what it's intended to do. I did see some negative comments about people mad it's just the same old KLR, but the KLR community, I mean, people like to modify the bike so much. So you basically want to get a, kind of base level bike, and then modify it to your liking. And that's one thing that I've kind of noticed about some of the comments is people get pretty mad about some of the things that I modify the bike or things I do with the bike. But you have to understand, everybody has different wants and needs, and it depends on what you're doing. But this bike for me is set up the way that I want it set up. I'm not doing any crazy off-roading. I'll take out my dirt bike to do that kind of stuff. I'm not doing super long rides. I'm doing little things like this daily. You know, maybe I'll do a KLR trip in the future and go do some exploring, but I can go ride on a lot of areas and really do some exploring that you can't do on other bikes. The bike does not have tons of power, but that's pretty well known. If you bought a KLR and you weren't aware of that, then you did not do very good research, because the KLR is known for, you know, basically being the bike that you can't kill and being something that is cheap and can basically go on-road and off-road. My initial thoughts of the KLR before I bought one was that it would be better off-road and not very good on-road, and I didn't quite realize how wrong I really was until the first time I rode it. This thing is more comfortable on the street than basically all my street bikes I've had in the past. I don't like to cruise super high speed. I like to go exploring. So the power is not an issue for me. For people that it's going to be an issue with is people that like to ride fast on the highway or the interstate. I ride at least what I call a bucket speed, so I basically set RPM around 5100-ish on the bike, and then that allows me to cruise about 72-ish miles an hour, and that's fine for me. I'll go a little faster sometimes. Like yesterday I rode about 300 miles and I was kind of running a little bit late, so I started to cruise at 80 for, I don't know, like 2 hours. So the bike can do it, it's fine, but where it does best is, you know, little country roads, this kind of stuff. The fuel gauge, completely inaccurate. I don't know, I just got stung by a freaking bee again. That's awesome. I took one to the face a couple weeks ago. My eye swelled up so bad, but it just got me right there. I've not had very good luck with bees this year. Anyway, what was I saying? So the fuel gauge is useless. You can see it's indicated basically last bar right now. My fuel gauge is really my odometer, so 145.9, so 146 right now. That's since my last fill up. And the bike, I basically probably average about 45-ish miles per gallon on it, which puts me at about the 200 mile mark. So at about 200 miles is where I need to really start thinking about getting fuel. Of course, if I ride on the highway, it gets worse. I can go longer if it's slower stuff. But I would say generally 200 miles is what I plan for, and I can do up to about 230 to 250 before I'm probably out of fuel. So the 6.1 gallon tank, do the math on that. It falls short of some of the not so much advertising that Kawasaki is doing, but a lot of the comments, people saying how far you can go on these things. So your best range is going to be basically 55-ish miles an hour, 45 to 50 miles an hour, around there, and that's going to give you that max range. So if you're riding this kind of stuff right here, you're definitely going to go further. There's no, it's starting to swell up now. There's no fuel light. You see the little fuel indicator there? I don't know if you can make that out. It starts flashing, I guess when there's a gallon left in there. So that's your real indicator to know that you're basically running out of fuel. I had about the tank half full yesterday, and then when I parked it, I had a little bit of incline. When I started the bike up again, it was showing low fuel, just based on where the sensor sits in it. The speedometer is off quite significantly. I'd say 3-ish miles an hour. So right now I'm indicated about 31, 32, minus 3 from that, and that's about my real speed. So I would like to know the reason that they wanted to put the sensor for the speedometer on the countershaft sprocket, because KLR riders, of course, are going to want to modify those. So why the hell would you put it right there? And then it's inaccurate out of the factory anyway. So I don't know if everybody else is having the same issues I am, but it's not accurate. The bike, let's see, right now 165 is what I'm on temperature, and it's probably 70 degrees outside right now. I haven't really seen it stay much hotter than like 190, like when I'm on the highway, like when it's real hot outside. The bike, of course, once you get slow in traffic, it'll climb up to about, I think, 217, 218, and then the fan will kick off and then kick the bike down to about 200. So that, those of you that want to know what the temperatures are like, that's kind of what to expect. The stock suspension, let's talk about that. So I would say the stock suspension, if you're under 200 pounds and you are not riding anything other than roads like this, or like dirt roads, then you're probably wasting your money. It's not going to make that big of a difference, you know, for you to go put, you know, $1,700 in suspension when you're not really using it. Of course, customized suspension is going to work better, and there's going to be certain people that like to argue that you need to have good suspension, whatever. For the most part, the suspension stock works better than I thought it would. The reason I need new suspension is because I tend to ride harder than some people. I'm a lot heavier than most people, and I'm carrying a lot of weight on the bike. So let me try to go back to some of my comments about that. I saw one guy posted a comment about basically the bike won't go above whatever it was, like 55 miles an hour or something like that. It just didn't have any power. What I'll say to that is one of two things are wrong. Something is wrong with the bike that it shouldn't be wrong with the bike, or you're doing something wrong. It's got to be one of those two things. So if you got a bike that is having power issues like that, definitely take it back to the dealer and have them fix it, because I go just fine on this thing, and I probably weigh more than most people do. So tire pressures, I tend to run about 17 in the front, about 28 in the rear. So right now I'm indicated 17 and 29. And I might go up a little bit if I was going to carry a lot of weight, but I'm not doing like long, like KLR trips. Maybe in the future, but there's really no need for me to run anything else like that. But yeah, this whole thing, I don't remember what I paid for it. I have to look back at the link, but I tend to, I guess, get a little bit more paranoid about, like, oh my god, am I feeling something weird on the bike? That at least, there's at least some reassurance to me that I can look down real fast and see the current status. So right now I can see my current temperature, I can see my RPM, I can see the tire pressure. I don't have any voltage indication, which I wish I did, but for the most part I like information, so I can at least immediately know, you know, if the bike is doing something weird. So let's get out here on the highway for a second, get it up to a little bit more of a speed here. Not much, because it's still kind of a slow zone. But let's do some acceleration. Let's hit that NOS on the KLR. So it's absolutely sufficient for what I need to do with it. One thing, by the way, I forgot to mention during the little walk around, this little throttle lock here, you know, I can lock that. and then kind of a cruise control. That's a nice feature when I like to shake my arms out. These mirrors took a lot of adjusting to kind of get the perfect mix of not being interfering with the windshield too much, and for me to be able to see out of them. The windshield, I'm basically getting wind at about eye level right now. So if I had the large windshield on here, of course that's going to be more drag, and I'm still not going to eliminate the wind, but it's definitely going to make things less fatiguing. Vibration wise, so like I said, I basically just put the bars on, bar risers. These grips, I really like these grips, they're pretty comfortable, and I don't really feel vibration that much in the handlebars, but I'll notice that like if I ride for an hour or two, my hand's pretty tingly, like when I get back to my cell phone or something. Through the foot pegs, I took out the rubber ones, the rubber mounts. I put in these, I don't know, whatever they were, like IMS pegs or something, and basically these little spacer looking things that help with the stability, basically with the sagging, because since I like to stand up a lot, I don't like the pegs to sag. So vibration wise, it's not bad at all. The seat, I don't feel it too much, but with all the stuff that Kawasaki did for the anti-vibration, I would say it's almost negligible, a lot less than I would have expected. The motor, one of the reasons that you like to kind of cruise slow in this is the motor vibrates worse the faster you go. So like this kind of stuff right here is, God, I'm so bad about leaving my blinker on. And what was I saying? So the yeah, cruising at speeds like this is kind of where the KLR likes to be. The you know, exploring range. I mean, that's the reason you're going to buy the bike. So as far as daily exploring, it is a perfect bike for that. For long trips, I mean, I'm sure you can do better, but your wallet's going to pay for it. I mean, I wanted to get the Yamaha T7, but they're so hard to find and so overpriced that I didn't get it. And after this, I'm glad I didn't, because I mean, what is it? All said and done, you know, out the door, below MSRP on this bike and all the modifications, I'm probably like 11 or 12 grand in, which is basically where you're going to pay stock for another bike before you even start trying to modify it. But yeah, this bike is really comfortable to stand up on. One reason I can go long distance on it is that I can move positions. So like my street bikes, you're kind of stuck in the same position. Well, on this thing I can stand up, I can stretch my legs, I can get my back straight, you can lay on the tank, you can do a lot of different things, and it really allows you to go much greater distances. So with the amount of weight I have on the bike right now, like this kind of stuff, I definitely take it way easy because the thing is so top heavy right now. I mean, I'm carrying like extra water, like extra all this stuff, and I really just don't want to, lay the bike down if I don't have to. So I've only dropped it that one time so far. I've almost dropped it, maybe more than once, but I'm just kind of cruising through this stuff now. But there's not a whole lot of bikes that you can just kind of, cruise around off-road and on-road. I can go up some more extreme stuff if I desired, but again, I mean, that's why I have a dirt bike too. So if you're gonna get a KLR, do some hardcore stuff, then hats off to you, dude. But for the everyday rider, this thing works pretty well. Let's see, anything else? Let me try to think of some comments. People have been posting about the bike. These boxes, the panniers here, things, like to move around in them. You really got to secure stuff if you don't want to move. I don't get any interference with my leg on them at any point, but dropping it, you can really bend the hell out of the bike, I bet. There's some jets taking off right there. And then you can really hurt yourself too with it if you drop the bike with the panniers on.
pretty much it. The bike, like I said, it does what it's supposed to do. I do not recommend Kawasaki to really change the bike much. A few small things. I wouldn't mind the 6th gear in it, just so you can have better highway cruising capability, because I am kind of tapped out, you know, and I'm on the highway where you don't have any real power in reserve. So if you're cruising above 70 miles an hour and you want to pass, there's really no power left to do that. Like if I'm cruising right now at about 50 miles an hour and I want to pass, then, you know, it's, you know, I can pass pretty easy. So yeah, I mean, it's not super exciting engine, but I want reliability. So but anyway, that's basically my thoughts of the KLR. And before we wrap this up, we are sitting at 2,420 miles on the bike. I have not done the doohickey yet. I'll do that maybe in the wintertime, and kind of see how that goes. I'll only post a video on that if I notice any wear on it. But other than that, there's so many videos, it's not really worth it, I guess, for people to just watch another doohickey video. So anyway, I hope that answers some questions, and I'll probably post another dirt bike video or two. But after that, unless there's something crazy happening, I'm kind of done with the videos. I mean, that kind of wraps up the KLR. There's only so much you can talk about. So we'll see you on the next one.